Site of the worst mining disaster in U.S. history, the founding of Father's Day, and the father of West Virginia. I'm Wayne Worth, and you're watching On the Road in West Virginia, our 55 counties, Marion County. Long before Marion County became one of the main industrial and economic centers of north central West Virginia, it was a wild frontier. Of course, this was right after the French and Indian War in the Monongahela Valley, where the threat of Indian raids was so imminent that some of the early settlers had to construct forts to ensure their survival. One such fort, which was built in 1774 by a dude named Jacob Prickett, was Prickett's Fort. Now, old Jake didn't build this fort for military purposes, but instead as a safe refuge for local settlers when tomahawks and arrows started flying their way. By 1787, tensions with the natives started to cool down a little, and a group of settlers from Delaware, of all places, would establish roots in what would later become a great city. The arrival of Boaz Fleming and his entourage would be the start of what we today call Fairmont. Really, the town would be initially called Middletown in 1820, since it was located between Clarksburg and Morgantown. However, when Marion County was formed in 1842, the name was then changed to Fairmont and deemed as the county seat. Shortly after its inception, development started to take off, and neighboring towns of Palatine and West Fairmont were established. It didn't take long, though, for Fairmont to say, "Not so fast, my friend," when in 1899 a new charter was granted to incorporate Palatine and West Fairmont as the city of Fairmont. Now, the arrival of the B&O Railroad during the early 1850s would transform Marion County economically, but the Civil War would also put a big bullseye on towns along its route. And that Marion County town was Fairmont, courtesy of the Jones and Bowdoin Raid. The main function of the Jones and Bowdoin Raid was to disrupt service along the B&O, since back in those days the railroad was the fastest way to transport troops and supplies. Of course, the Union controlled the B&O, which gave them a significant advantage over the Confederacy. So when General William Jones raided Fairmont, he set his sights on attacking the B&O Railroad Bridge, which he and his troops ultimately destroyed before heading south to Bridgeport. Now, right around this time would be the height of the statehood movement, and Marion County would be home to two leaders who would be very influential in the creation of our new state. Farmington's own Waitman Willie was a self-taught lawyer who, during the state's transition from Virginia to West Virginia, was elected to represent the reorganized government of Virginia in Congress. Though initially opposed to the creation of West Virginia, Waitman Willie would later propose the statehood bill in the U.S. Senate, and with his famous Willie Amendment, which provided for the emancipation of slaves as a condition of West Virginia becoming a state, would get Abe Lincoln's stamp of approval, which would result in West Virginia becoming our country's 35th state. Now, just down the road in Fairmont was a man named Francis Pierpont, who most historians consider as the father of West Virginia. Francis was a right-of-way attorney when the B&O Railroad came to town, but his claim to fame came through his involvement with the first and second Wheeling Conventions in 1861, where he was elected as governor of the pro-union reorganized government of Virginia, which we learn more about in the Ohio County segment. Post-Civil War, Marion County would prosper economically, as it would become the epicenter of both the coal and natural gas booms here in northern West Virginia. To put this into perspective, the industrial growth was so great that the county's population would go from 12,000 in 1870 to over 66,000 by 1930. The boom in coal and natural gas would also require significant demand in labor, as immigrants from Eastern and Southern Europe and African Americans from the American South immigrated to Marion County to work in both the mines and oil and gas fields. The early coal boom would also accelerate substantial growth in many Marion County communities, as Farmington, which once had a population of 89 in 1870, by 1930 would have over 800 residents. Even Granttown in the northern part of the county was formed when the Federal Coal and Coke Company opened a mine there in 1901. As for Mannington, it would mainly be a booming oil and gas town, which would see a population increase of over 2,700 people between the years of 1890 and 1920. However, Fairmont would take the prize and become the county's center of wealth during this time, as it would grow from a small community of 900 people in 1880 to a bustling West Virginia city of 23,000 by 1930. Now, all this early growth and prosperity would be the very spark to jumpstart the region's economy for years to come. However, it would also come at a cost and one of the worst tragedies in our state's history. On December 6, 1907, an explosion ripped through the Fairmont Coal Company's No. 6 and No. 8 mines in Monongah, West Virginia. After the dust settled and all the bodies were recovered, the official death toll was 361 men, making it the worst mine disaster in our country's history. In the end, 1,000 children lost a father or a brother, and 250 women were left as widows. On Sunday, July 5, 1908, at what is today the Central United Methodist Church in Fairmont, the first Father's Day service was held after a local woman still grieving of the loss of her father who died in the explosion suggested to the preacher that the church have a service to honor all fathers. Today, Father's Day is celebrated every third Sunday in June. Sadly, it didn't stop there, as on the morning of November 20th, 1968, an explosion ripped through the Consolidated Coal Company's No. 9 mine near Farmington, killing 78 men. This resulted in Congress passing the Federal Coal Mine Health and Safety Act in 1969, which imposed stricter safety measures in the mines and gave federal mine inspectors the authority to shut down any unsafe coal operation. The second half of the 20th century would bring a shift in the county's economy as the production of coal and natural gas would decline. However, significant investments in the region's infrastructure would spawn more diversified opportunities. The building of Interstate 79 through north central West Virginia during the late 1960s and early 1970s brought a lot of new development to Marion County. Along with the growth and expansion of communities such as Whitehall, I-79 also made Marion County more attractive to high-tech industries, as the 1990s would bring the I-79 Technology Park to the Fairmont area. What followed was NASA coming to Marion County along with the National White-Collar Crime Center. Today, the research park has expanded largely in part by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in 2010 choosing the park as a site for their Environmental Security Computing Center, which are mainly supercomputers geared towards improving the accuracy of climate and weather model predictions both globally and regionally. The state's investment in higher education with Fairmont State University, which by the way first opened its doors in 1865 as West Virginia's first private normal school to train teachers, has also been a vital part of the Fairmont community both educationally and economically. And with the growth and expansion of Pierpont Community and Technical College and its programs that foster a strong educated workforce, Marion County in north central West Virginia has and will continue to be an attractive place for businesses to locate. Now, of course, we couldn't end the story of Marion County without at least recognizing its contribution to West Virginia politics. Other than our state's founding fathers, Waitman Willie and Francis Pierpont, Marion County has also produced 4 governors. However, probably the most intriguing politician to ever come out of Marion County was Farmington's own A. James Manchin. For over 50 years, he was a public servant, serving as a member of the House of Delegates, Secretary of State, State Treasurer, and the state's REAP Director as he would collect and dispose of old rusted junk cars throughout West Virginia. He was truly a legend in West Virginia politics and entertaining to say the least. And how can we forget about the pepperoni roll, a West Virginia treasure which originated right here in Fairmont in 1927 at Country Club Bakery. There's nothing like tasting a piece of history. I'm Wayne Worth, and until next time, always remember what we value and hold important to our lives today came from events that happened yesterday, and it's when we begin to understand the events of yesterday that we fully embrace today, which makes tomorrow become less of a mystery.